Hey everybody, St. Paul here, episode 61 of Music on the Run with Dr. Fink, Matt Fink. It's coming up next.
Before we get started here, do me a favor. Wherever you got this podcast, make sure you subscribe, give us a rating, and if you have time and like what you're hearing, make sure you write a review. It really helps us get the word out so we can have a lot more people coming to the party. Hey everybody, I'm St. Paul Peterson. Friends gave me that nickname, and I've been lucky enough to tour with people like the Steve Miller Band, Kenny Loggins, Peter Frampton, Donny Osmond, to name a few. And when I'm not playing music, I love to run. And this is a podcast about how we stay healthy on the road, physically, mentally, and with our families. Welcome to Music on the Run.
Hey everybody, St. Paul here. Welcome to episode 61 of Music on the Run. Man, it's starting to get cold here in Minnesota. First significant snowfall of the season today. Nobody knows how to drive, including me. I actually called my next guest and said, well, what do you think? I would try to give him an out. And he's like, I just put snow tires on my four-wheel drive. I'm coming. I'm like, all right, guess I can't get out of that one. But anyways, we're going to have a great time today. I can't wait for you to meet our next guest. Before we do that, we got a little housekeeping to do. I wanted to say a heartfelt thank you to our former intern, Emily Turner, who was with us for 8 months. She was the heart and soul of this thing. She edited all the Funk Friday. She edited all the episodes of Music on the Run. She's an incredibly talented and wonderful young lady. Emily, thank you for all you brought Music on the Run and Funk Friday, and I know you're going to be incredibly successful. Thanks for all you've done. All right. Now, we have a new intern. His name is Audie, and you will meet him in upcoming episodes. If you've seen the last two episodes of Funk Friday, 139 and 140, you've already seen his work. This is his very first Music on the Run. So we welcome Audie to this. Glad you're here, my friend. He's sitting in the background right over here. All right, let's move on to my next guest. He's an old friend of mine and the entire family. He's a producer, he's a writer, keyboardist, record exec, a dad, and a legend of the Minneapolis sound. He's won Grammys, American Music Awards. I couldn't think of it for a second there. Please welcome my friend, the Dr. Matt Fink. How are you, brother?
I'm doing pretty well, quite well, actually.
I know, man.
Yeah.
We finally get to hang out again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which has been just wonderful.
So
it's great. So much fun.
What we've been doing is we've got a band that some of you that might not know called St. Paul and the Minneapolis Funk All-Stars. And I don't know how many years ago it was, but we went to Australia, and I asked you to come aboard then, but you were right in the throes of the revolution. So time passes, and I said, well, what do you think, Matt? And the last, few months, I guess, you said, yeah, I want to do this. And, man, has it been great to have you a part of that, man.
Yeah, it's been really fun to get out and play with you guys, and a lot of fun. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
It's really a great time.
You're doing quite a bit of live playing now, aren't you? I mean, not only with me, but you're playing a little bit around Minneapolis again. That's something you haven't necessarily done a lot of, right?
Yeah, not really. I mean, once I was working with Prince, I was just there for 12 years. And then after I left the group, after about 12 years, I just went headlong into running my studio and doing things out of my place, and occasional live things.
Yeah.
Around town, occasional things out of town, but no big tours with anybody or anything. So yeah, I didn't really in earnest get back out and play again till about 10 years ago in a regular way.
Right. And you said you were there for 12 years in the Prince camp?
Yeah.
You were there from 79?
Yeah, early 79, late 78 actually, through 1990. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So how did that all come about? You're a kid from Minneapolis. You grew up in St. Louis Park, is that right?
Yeah.
So here's this kid. How old were you when you started working with him?
20.
Okay, so were you playing around town then?
Playing around the Midwest. primarily, with a couple different cover groups.
Okay.
Writing a little bit with some people that were in those bands. We were
Okay.
just kind of getting our feet wet that way. And then Bobby Z, the drummer, he and I knew each other since we were pretty young.
Oh, no. I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah, because our mothers used to do fundraising events for the Mount Sinai Hospital here in Minneapolis.
Oh, no kidding.
And one year they did some skits together at these events, like funny, they played French maids. I have a picture of them being French maids. And and then Bobby's father and my father actually emceed that event.
Really?
Together, yeah. And what's really funny about that is I was going through some old stuff at my folks' house years ago and found a program from that night. They had saved it when they were the MCs.
Wow.
I know it was unbelievable. But so I met Bobby when I was about 6 years old. Went over to his house with my mom because she had to rehearse something for one of those events. Mm-hmm. And that's where I met Bobby. And he already had a drum kit set up in the basement because he was playing in a band called the Jaguars with his brothers already.
Wow.
His older brother.
Stevie and...
Steve and David.
Okay.
And Stevie went on to become this renowned film editor to this day. It works, does a ton of work in Hollywood and works on all the those new... is it John Cameron? Who's that guy? The Titanic.
That's Cameron,
Jim,
I think.
Is it Jim Cameron?
No, I think...
Anyway.
You'll look it up. That's what Audi does.
Regardless, he's working
I know who did Titanic.
He's working for Cameron right now. I know that, again, for these science fiction movies that they're doing. And then David, the oldest brother, of course, he's produced a lot of great people and won awards and worked with Prince early on, helped produce Prince's demo.
He produced The Family.
And he produced The Family,
Sure did.
of course, which you were involved with. I totally forgot.
I've done a lot of work with David.
And he's done a lot. You have. I've done session work with him over the years. James Cameron, I was right. I had the name right.
I think I said John.
That's okay. I thought I said John first. Okay, so it's me. But regardless of that, so then Bobby brought Prince's demo tape that had been produced by David to me one evening. I was out playing with my group called Zachariah at the time. This was long about 1977. I remember it like it was yesterday because we were playing what's called the Hopkins Bowl, right there in Hopkins, next door to St. Louis Park, where I grew up. And he brought me out to the car and he played Prince's demo. And I said, "What is this? This is a really great sounding group. Who's this group?" He goes, "It's not a group." I go, "What do you mean it's not a group?"
Yeah.
He goes, "It's a guy in the studio doing everything, writing, producing, the whole shebang." I go, "What? That's unheard of. That's like Stevie Wonder territory. That's like not too many people are doing that in the industry yet." And he goes, "He's your age." I go, "What do you mean he's my age?" He says, you guys are the same age. And he can play all the instruments and do everything. I go, "That's like unheard of. That's amazing. To be at that level of proficiency, playing and doing all this himself." I said, "Look, let me know what happens with this. What's the plan?" He goes, "Well, I'm like working for his manager right now." Bobby was working for Owen Husney at the time.
So Owen was involved
at that
early
point.
On.
He was right away. Yeah, early on. At this point in '77, Chris Moon, who had also worked with Prince before Owen, and taught Prince the ropes in the studio and so forth, just basically said, "Here, Prince, you have the keys to my studio. I love you. You're talented. I want to work with you. We can work together." So he mentored Prince, and then Chris introduced him to Owen, and then from there, they were getting ready to shop this deal for Prince. They were trying to take it to all the labels, and they had a team at that point of people, like 3 people, that were involved with this. And I said, "Well, let me know if he gets signed, and he wants to put a band together. I'd love to get in an audition." So fast forward to late '78, after the first album, he got signed. First album's out, everything, and then I was calling Owen and Bobby.
Bet you were.
Hey, you guys.
Remember me?
Remember me?
I'm your cousin.
I'm the guy that you know from when I met you at your house. Okay. So anyway, but Bobby went to our high school was St. Louis Park, and he was 2 years ahead of me, so that's how I knew him. I mean, we were always in touch throughout those years and seeing each other's bands play and all that. But so, yeah, I managed to get in for an audition, and the rest is history.
No.
You know,
What is an audition with a
like
newly
for Prince?
signed? Yeah, what is that all about? Because I know my experience with an audition with Prince. I don't know if the rest of the world knows what it's like to audition, especially when he's this young.
He was so young, but I was still intimidated because I'm thinking to myself, this guy, he can play fluently on keyboards, bass, drums, you know, everything, guitar. And so I walked in there, and of course it was like a dream of keyboard stuff in there, keyboard heaven, because he had backing from the label at that point, and they were just, here's some money, Prince, go buy a bunch of gear, you know.
Right.
I walk into all this state-of-the-art keyboards and stuff. I brought, you know, my
And where
stuff.
was this, by the way?
This was in another mentor of Prince's, Peppy Willie's basement.
Oh my god!
Over by Lake Calhoun, Peppy Willie.
Perfect.
Of 94 East fame. If any of you out there have heard of the 94 East group, and Prince played on a lot of that stuff when he was like 16 or years old. Anyway, so that was it. And I walked into the audition. I was kind of nervous, you know, didn't know what to expect. He wasn't there right away, and the other keyboard player, Gail Chapman, was there, and she was saying things that made me feel kind of nervous. You know, like, you know, Prince really knows what he wants, so just
Thanks a lot.
He's one of those guys that he's blah 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 blah. You know. Anyway, I was already intimidated. So he walks in, and he introduced himself, and he was friendly and everything. And then I said, "So what songs are we going to do today for sure?" I mean, I learned this one and that one and blah blah blah. And he goes, "Well, do you know the song So Blue?" And I go, "So Blue." That's on the first this new album, right? I remember the title, but I didn't know I was supposed to learn that. I haven't worked on that one yet. He goes, "Oh, don't worry about it. There's no keyboards on it anyway."
That was the icebreaker?
That was the icebreaker.
Oh, that's classic.
Classic Prince.
Oh, yeah. He did he did something similar for me when I first met him.
Yeah.
People already know that story. That's funny that he would break the ice like that with you.
Yes, that's what he did.
Huh.
And then he, of course, like he did with any rehearsal or any sound check or any warm-up before he does anything, he wants to jam and just improv the whole time for like an hour or more and just riff with people. And, oh, here's a chord progression. Let's play something with this, blah, blah. So that was it. We didn't go to play any songs yet.
Why do you think he did that?
That's how he warmed up. He just liked to do that because sometimes an idea would pop up that he could write something to.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
That was the other
Do you think
reason.
part of him doing that as well to see how you would gel and what you would play and how you would
like that too?
fit in?
Yeah, he wanted to see if there was any kind of even psychic communication,
right,
possibly, and,
for sure,
and you know, visual cues and things, you know, interacting to see how you know, dealt with dynamics and things.
Yeah,
with the improvisational side. So that went really well. And then it came time to play Soft and Wet, which was the first single. Yeah. And there's this funky clav part on that song. You know, it's like that kind of a rhythm. And you can't hear it real well in the mix. It's kind of buried. So I tried playing it, what I had worked on. And he said, "Well, that's not quite right." And I go, I know it's probably not right because it's hard to hear in the mix. Any chance you could show me what you played? He said, "Oh, okay." So then he sat there and showed me what he played, and for about 10 minutes or so. And then I was close, but it wasn't quite there. And then I was able to learn it on the spot and then do it with him. And I think that impressed him.
Oh, yeah.
So, because he said, nobody has had, asked me about this. None of the keyboard players that have auditioned have nailed that part yet. And you're the only one that asked. And I go, okay, well, great. I'm glad you showed it to me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right.
So that was that. But I think he liked the fact that I was honest and said, yeah, I really couldn't hear it properly. Maybe you could help me.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So I think that really impressed him. I think that was, technically I was, obviously he liked what I was doing, but I think that may have sealed the deal for him almost. But I had to wait 3 weeks for his decision because they were...
You're sitting waiting at home?
3 weeks to get a yay or nay from him because they were still auditioning more people beyond me.
Interesting.
And they had been auditioning people ahead of me as well throughout that year. But I don't know. That's all I know.
Who called you?
I think it was Owen. I think
Okay.
Owen called to let me know. Either Owen or Bobby.
And Bobby was already in by this point.
Yeah, Bobby had been brought on to be the drummer already.
Okay.
They had Des Dickerson and, of course, his childhood buddy, Andre Anderson / Simone,
Mm-hmm.
and Gail, who came from Duluth.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you are a young guy. You're in this band. You're a guy from the suburbs.
Yeah.
Prince is this punk funk guy who is pushing the limits of what radio and television are going to accept,
Yeah.
right? And you're part of this thing now, man. There ain't no backing out.
It's ground floor level.
How did that all go over? Were you like, what am I doing? Or were you like, I'm ready?
Oh, no, I was so excited to be a part of it. Because, when I first bought the first album and put it on the turntable at home and listened to that thing, I was just flabbergasted just from the opening a cappella choir thing that he did, this otherworldly, ethereal church thing called For You. That was just like, who is this? Who does that?
Yeah.
It was really unique, very original. You just didn't hear stuff like that.
All in falsetto.
All in falsetto, just totally on point. His pitch control was amazing too. I mean, just live anytime. He very rarely strayed sharp or flat ever.
Right.
So no auto tune for him.
No.
But yeah, that was really something else. I was extremely excited to be on board with what he was doing.
What were some of the first things that you guys did? Television shows?
No, the very,
or what was it?
Really, the very first gig was the Capri Theater in North Minneapolis.
Sure, yeah.
Which was meant to be a showcase for Warner Brothers people.
Okay.
Fly in from LA and see what the new band was like and see if we had it yet, if we had anything going on. It's early January, colder than you know what. It's already below zero, and you got these guys coming in from LA freezing their asses off. And so the band had only been together for 2 months. That's it. There was like 2 months of rehearsal on stuff from the first album. So ready or not, we went in and did it. And it was okay. But yeah, we needed more time to really put it together. So they said, it's a good start. But Prince, you're going to have to do the second album now anyway. You have to go in the studio very soon. We want you to start getting that going. And so the band, you guys just keep working together and get tighter. So it wasn't until summer of '79, I think May-ish, they put us in a rehearsal space over on Lake Street in the old U Warehouse is what it was called.
Okay.
And we had a room upstairs in this concrete bunker. It was so echoey and it was just horrible. And really bad acoustics. So that's where we rehearsed, and then we rehearsed all summer to do a nightclub showcase tour like new bands do. They go out and they play these clubs all across the country where you're introduced to the public. And, places like the Bottom Line in New York. We played the Roxy in L.A.
Yep.
And there's a funny story there on the Roxy gig. We
Come on, tell.
One of our guitar techs hadn't calibrated the guitar tuner
very
well. And he'd been smoking something, I don't know. And he tuned the guitars. First chord of the night, train wreck. So we had to start the song. I mean, they were off by like 3 steps or so with the keyboards. It was really bad. It was a nightmare. Everybody's, place is packed. You got all the Warner's people there again to see us come back and do our first show after the other one. Yeah, and then we're playing, and Dez and Andre and Prince are struggling to tune their guitars up while the song is grooving. So yeah, it was a nightmare.
Oh my God!
But then we embarked on this tour starting in L.A. and we got about 2/3 of the way through this club tour. I'll never forget playing Old Man Rivers down in Louisiana or some place called...
Really? That's the name of the club?
Yeah, Old Man Rivers. And the stage wasn't even up anyway. It was on a level with the audience, and there was like what looked like a picket fence in front of where the band played, or like a wooden fence of some kind with a gate. So you had to, and there was no dressing room nearby. So in order to do anything, you had to like walk through the audience and come back, and it was really funny. And then a gate, and
was he wearing his, the outfit at that time?
No, back then he was wearing like gold lame tight, pants and
got it.
Leopard skin shirts, and he was trying to go for that kind of rock disco look.
Got it.
In those days, and I wasn't even the doctor yet. I was just some guy wearing a paratrooper's jumpsuit or something. I hadn't even gone into some of.
You hadn't gotten the doctor identity.
I wasn't even the jailbird guy.
Okay, wait. Now you might as well tell us about the doctor. How did that all work? And tell me about the jailbird thing too.
Oh well, we did. After all the showcase, we had to cancel 3 shows at the end of the showcase club tour because he got laryngitis. He got sick, and then he just said, "You know what? I don't want to make up those dates. We're just cancel. We're done. Blah blah. Let's move on." So that's when his management procured an opening slot for Rick James' tour at that time, which was called the Fire It Up Tour, totally based on marijuana smoke and everything else.
And Rick was huge.
He was huge at that time. He was selling out the arenas everywhere. So we had this great opportunity to be seen by the Rick James fan base. And so we got out there, and I was wearing a jail suit at that time.
You just said, I think that I'll wear
a jail suit because it looks cool with keyboards, black and white keys. That was my logic.
Okay.
Plus it harkened back to Jailhouse Rock and back in those days. And so we're out on the road. We're about 3 shows into the tour. And Rick James is doing this song called "Bustin' Out of L7," which was on one of his albums at the time. It might have been that Fired Up, whatever. I don't know if it was the current record or the previous one. Mm-hmm. So he has a jail suit. He comes out and he tears the jail suit off in the middle of the song, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, Prince says, "You're going to have to change your look because the headliner, i.e. Rick James, is wearing a jail suit." I go,
what are the odds? Huh?
But what are the odds? What are the odds that he's wearing a jail suit? So I said, okay, I really don't want to have to change it up, but since you're insisting, I guess I will. He says, what was your other choices for your stage look?
Mm-hmm.
He always wanted to be quirky. He said, Matt, I want you to be the quirky guy. You gotta be quirky. You're kind of a funny guy, quirky.
Yeah.
I go, okay. So the second choice was a dude in a doctor's scrub suit. But I thought that was too bland compared to the black and white stripe thing,
Yeah.
And Prince said, that could work. I kind of think that's different. Let's try that. I'll send our wardrobe gal out and get you all the accoutrement for being a doctor. So they showed up.
It is perfect for you,
it did work out well. Yeah, my mom always wanted me to be a doctor. So
Mom, I did what you asked me.
So
that is great.
So that was it. So but they had all the accessories with the surgeon cap, the sterile cap, and the little light reflector thing,
right,
and the stethoscope and the mask and all that. And then Prince says, you're already wearing the bug-eye glasses. Let's have you come out on stage wearing the mask over your face so you're completely covered.
Yeah.
And they'll just go, wow, who is... And I looked like some guy out of a horror movie, obviously. Yeah. The scary doctor who wears sunglasses in the operating theater,
Evidently the funky doctor does.
Apparently, yeah. So that was that. And then, of course, I couldn't keep the mask on very long because my glasses would steam up.
Of course.
So I couldn't see. I'm struggling to see while I'm playing. And so I had to. I said, Prince, I can't wear that the whole show. He goes, well, take it off after a couple songs. I go, okay, fine. And then he said to me, now I have this great idea. I'm going to put an artist's painter's easel up on stage next to you, so that when I introduce you, I want you to be painting.
What?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. What? I went, what? He goes, I want you to pretend like you're painting, or actually you'll have some paint up there and you'll start painting. But I'm a doctor. Shouldn't I have like a scalpel? He goes,
yeah.
No, we're going to try this and see what the audience does. I go, okay. Well, that confused the audience like I expected it would. And then Prince realized that was not one of his better ideas. And then he said no to that. And of course, I said, I have a better idea. He goes, what? They take my picture. They take our pictures all the time. I'm going to have my little camera up there. I'm going to take a shot of the audience each time you introduce me. He goes, perfect. And that worked like a charm. The audience went nuts for that.
Huh.
They loved the fact that I was taking a picture of them. It was the first selfie.
Sure. Do you have any of these pictures?
I have them all from that tour.
You should have a book.
I have all the pictures.
That's your book.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. Right there.
Okay.
I want 50%. Are you hearing this, people? No. Really, that would be fascinating. Honestly, that would be so cool with little stories about what you remember of these tours.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So at this point now, I see a couple of records in.
This is the second album at this point.
How is this whole camp changing and progressing? I mean, is his music changing? Is he changing? What's going on with this camp?
Yeah, everybody's trying to find their niche, within the group, and their look in particular, because looks were important in those days, and, how you presented yourself.
Right.
So that was always being developed during that time, during that tour.
Got it. Now, when did the time start coming along? Was that 80?
Like, that was the controversy era.
Okay.
Like 81, just like right when the third album, which was Dirty Mind, came out, that's when he started to work on Time material and get it.
So he didn't have any other side projects prior to that, or did he?
There was one side project that he did with us, with the first band, which before Lisa Coleman was, like I mentioned before, and he called it The Rebels, and it was the summer of, trying to remember if he did it before or after the Rick James tour. That's the thing, I can't remember. It might have been 79 even, that summer too, we did this. So we went out to this new studio in Boulder, Colorado called Mountain Air Studios. Brand new facility. Beautiful, big studio. And he just said, I want to do another album with you guys, but call it something else. And I go, really? What's the label going to do with that? He goes, don't worry about that. We'll make it happen. I go, do you mean you want to put out a separate album called The Rebels, which is us, but not your backup band for Prince?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah. I go, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
So we went out there for a week and recorded a whole album. Everybody had songs, and we were playing on each other's stuff and doing that. That's still out. Bootleg copies are out there.
I gotta hear that.
Called The Rebels. Yeah.
Really?
There's one song that Andre did that's like my favorite thing on there, called Thrill You, Kill You. It's funkier than funk. I mean,
really?
And it's so good.
Huh.
Great track.
I've never heard that story of that.
Oh, you haven't heard about this yet, have
you?
Yeah, well, that's because Warner Brothers put the kibosh on
it.
Oh, yeah. And Prince took it to the Warner's people, and they went, what are you doing? You're not ready to do this. What are you thinking?
You concentrate on you
first,
but right?
Prince was so ahead of himself. I mean, as you know, he's such a genius. So then he thought, okay, so if I can't do the Rebels, I'm going to do something else. And then that's when the Time idea hit.
Aha.
And then Vanity 6, of course.
So the side projects came in a little bit later.
Yeah, but not much.
Okay.
Really, 81, that's only a couple years into his...
So where was the Stones opening slot? Was that around that same era?
Dirty Mind. Album was out, had just come out.
Tell me about the infamous... The booing of this to get off the stage.
The infamous Rolling Stones audience.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, well...
From your perspective.
My perspective was...
We're going to take a little break from the interview right now because I want to tell you about a couple of really cool things. First of all, we're having so much fun with our weekly 1-minute funk jams called Funk Friday. We've had so many world-class musicians on Funk Friday, including members of the Steve Miller Band, Fleetwood Mac, Daryl Hall and John Oates, Earth, Wind & Fire, just to name a few. You can check that out on all of our social media, but you can also see it on our YouTube channel. I also want to take this opportunity to thank all of our members who have supported us on Patreon. Don't know what Patreon is? go to www.patreon.com/Music on the Run podcast, and there you'll get all sorts of information on how you can financially help us produce this podcast. There are all kinds of incentives listed there on the website, and there are many different levels on how you can become involved. We could not put on this podcast without our patrons. All right, let's get back to the interview.
From your perspective.
My perspective was you get on stage. First of all, you're just like, I can't believe, can you pinch me? I'm at the LA Coliseum about to play in front of 90,000 people, opening for the Rolling Stones because Mick Jagger liked Prince.
Wow.
It was actually Mick who got turned on to Prince and thought, I want to give this kid a big break because he's so amazing. So I want to help him. So he called Prince personally and said, you want in management, and they said, we want you to open for these big stadium dates all over the country. So we were just like pinching ourselves. Go, really? So I'm backstage. Everybody and its mom in Hollywood is there. You know, people you've only imagined, dreamed of meeting or seeing in person. And so there I am, get on stage, not knowing what to expect. I thought, this is going to be fun, half-hour set, 25 minutes. We go out, we play, blah, blah, blah. This is going to be a gas, right? Yeah. We get up there, and the sun is still up, of course. It's like 3 PM. We're the first act, and then George Thorogood came on, Jay Giles' band, and then the Stones after the sun went down. Although I think Jay Giles made it just at sunset. But anyway, we're up there. We're about maybe I remember the first song pretty much. We started playing, and the middle fingers went up from the audience.
You're number one.
They're like the whole, like I'd say a good 50% of the people in this audience up front. I don't know how far back it went with the fingers. But the fingers went up, and they were just like angry. Who is this motherfucker?
Really?
Who are these people? They are just atrocious. We don't like them. Yeah. We're probably racist.
Oh.
And God knows, and I completely blew my mind, because not only were they flipping us the bird, the food started flying.
No.
Then the food and the cups and the bottles. I saw a fifth of whiskey bottle, empty, graze Prince's face like this.
Ooh,
it went, just like that. That close. I'm not kidding. And then I got hit with a crumpled Coca-Cola cup, like a large one of those big ones, big gulp or something. Yeah. It was probably that big of a wad, and went, right there.
Good thing you're a doctor.
And it stung like it stung.
Yeah,
they threw it hard. So we're about 3 songs in at this point to the set, and Prince, he doesn't know what to do. He's at a loss. He's like panicking, I think, inside, or he's in shock, really, because as we all were, we thought, wait a minute, this isn't supposed to happen. Who does that? Yeah. So he literally walked off stage. He just left. He left us. Literally in mid-song.
And what were you doing?
Playing a song.
You were vamping.
We're vamping. And it's like, where'd Prince go? He just left. He didn't even tell us he was going to leave either. I don't know, maybe he said something to Dez, but next thing I know, he's out of there. Dez signaled the end of the song without vocals, and then that was it. And then we left. And then we said, where'd Prince go? They go, he's already on his way to the airport. I go, what? He's flying back home. I go, you're kidding me. He says he's done. He's not going to do any more of these dates.
So you were lined up to do way more
bunch of shows.
Dates?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Stadium, indoor dome stadiums and outdoor, with the stuff. And then, so we're just in shock over this. We can't figure out for the life of me. I thought that, this would be a 60s, 70s, more hippie-oriented, peace-loving crowd. But I completely forgot that they had this whole faction of Hell's Angels people that worked for them and were their security, and there was a whole faction of God knows what. There could have been white supremacists out there, So it was just really weird. So let's get the black and the Jews up there. Oh, look at that. Hey, look at this
when you
mixed
put it like
race
that-
band. We can't have that. Anyway, go ahead. What?
No, you touched on something there that, of course, because of the day and age that we live in, it's super important. How much of that did you get, you personally, and what did you see that Prince received as far as that kind of treatment?
You know, I didn't see it very much at all, ever.
Okay.
And of course, you know, growing up in St. Louis Park, I saw anti-Semitism there.
Yeah.
And we literally had one black guy in my high school.
Yeah.
Growing up. So I just wasn't exposed to African Americans very much until I worked with Prince.
Right.
So, you know, it's just one of those things because we were segregated at that time. And as was the airwaves, you know, Prince couldn't get played locally on the main stations. There was one station playing R&B pop, and that was KMOJ. So that was it. Well, now, eventually he broke through, but, you know, Michael Jackson was the first artist to cross over and big in that way, and then that paved the way for Prince with songs like 1999, etc. Right. But still, it's a crime. You know, it's ridiculous, as we all know. How
it's funny for me. I think music has been such a uniter through all of time.
Yeah.
And I know for us, it's just like we don't. It's a matter. The question is, can you play? The question is, are you Jewish or are you black or are you brown or whatever? Are you Catholic? What are you? What? It's can you play?
Can you play? Right.
And are you a good hang?
Right. It's all it is.
End of story. I wish we could give that kind of mojo
to the whole
world.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? I think things have improved, though. I think things have gotten better.
Except for Kanye.
Except for he needs some better medication.
Maybe so. Anyway, let's not talk about Kanye.
Yeah, we're done.
So let's get back in the rehearsal hall.
Yeah.
This interview could be 6 hours,
yes.
but I don't want to do that to you.
I'll let you.
I'm going to jump ahead a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rehearsals, we touched on it earlier, especially a little bit later on in the career, getting towards 1999 and Purple Rain. The MO for rehearsals was to always jam.
Yeah.
And you had said that some of these jams would turn out as songs.
Yeah.
Or next day.
Yeah, they could be turned into a song.
How does that work?
Well,
for
instance, the song "Dirty Mind," which I have a piece of the writing of the music on that. It was at a jam. This was probably 1980-ish, early 80, and he just said, "I like this idea. Come over to the house tonight. I want to work on this." I said, "Okay." So we went over there, and he literally laid down the bass and the drums. Actually, there was no bass on that one. It was all keyboard bass. I did the main keyboard riff with him. He was on drums, and then he had a guitar, and then I did a synthesizer solo, and then he sent me home. Next morning, he showed up with the song done.
As he often did.
With the vocal and everything. And then he said, "I think this is going to be the title track to the next album." And I went, "Really?"
And you got credit.
I did, yes. Yeah.
That's really good to hear.
Yes.
Name some of the parts that we may not know that you came up with that are super incredibly popular in the Prince world.
Okay, Computer Blue. That song was sort of, I planted a seed of the groove for that one on the Purple Rain album, and then he built the song around that. I just had, a fifth of it because other people were brought in and co-wrote. And then there was It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night off the Sign of the Times. 17 Days was a group effort by Prince and the Revolution, as was America.
Okay.
So those are all the songs I had a hand in. But I did a lot of session work on songs where I didn't get right. Those are writing credit songs, but songs where I played on things. I can't remember everything.
I think one of the other day when we were doing a gig, you said that
the Purple Rain,
the end of Purple Rain.
Yeah, the big vocal part, the woo hoo hoo.
Yeah, how did that happen?
The big anthemic thing.
Yeah,
that was just me playing that line on the piano while we were jamming on the chord progression. The first day he brought it in for us to work on it with him.
Huh.
And I was playing. Suddenly I was jamming and started playing that line, and then he started singing it, and then it became part of the song.
Right. And that's probably more of an arrangement
than
a songwriting thing. So you don't have any problem
No,
with that.
but he's still, for the Revolution at that time, he said, I'm because you guys contributed to things on this project, I'm going to give you artist royalties.
Wow.
Which was very generous of him, and
Sure was.
things like that.
So let's jump back a little bit now. Once Prince had created, by the way, that is fantastic to hear. I think that's really important for not only Prince fans to hear, but for everybody to hear that if you wrote something, you got a taste of it. So that's good. So let's go back to the time, because I'm curious. This is where I kind of enter the picture, and I was green, and I was watching all you veterans who had been out there. Before I got there, there was some tension that between the time and maybe Prince, simply because I think there was more made up, but then it became a reality of who was going to kick whose butt that night out on tour. So you had this family of people, the time, Jimmy, Terry, Monty,
Right.
Bean, Jerome, Morris, and then and this is an entity that Prince created.
Yeah.
And then you got you guys. Give me one instance of how these practical jokes and things that would go back and forth.
Well, first of all, the time became Prince's Frankenstein monster.
Aha.
And then he realized, oh my gosh, I wrote this stuff for these guys.
Yeah.
But now they're coming out on stage and just kicking our butt every night on the 1999 tour. It was called the Triple Threat Tour. It was the Vanity Six, and the Time and Us. So they were, Prince was having a problem with that, apparently. But at the end of that tour, things got out of hand, and there was a full-on food fight that took place.
Do tell.
Yep. It kind of started with Morris and Jesse Johnson came over to our dressing room and started, taunting us a little bit. For some
is that
reason.
right?
I don't know why they did that. I just know they came down and did something. And then Bobby threw a banana at him to get him to leave.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, they were throwing stuff at us and turned into the food fight.
Food fight!
So that night, it got kind of out of hand. And then the next night, which was the final night of the tour, they decided to just continue the food fight backstage.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, they even had eggs.
Oh.
They had everything. I mean, and then our management people thought, well, okay, that's it. We're ordering a bazillion cream pies, and they brought those in for the end of the show, and we were able to just have a massive, full-on Hollywood, Laurel and Hardy pie fight in the locker room in this arena, hockey arena.
No way.
Yeah, for real. You had to be careful because the floor got covered.
Of
and
course.
You were slipping and sliding in
exactly.
the cream pies, and yeah, it was real. It was the real deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jimmy and Terry basically got fired. They were asked to leave the band. That's where I came in with Jerry Hubbard, Rocky Garrity, and why am I having trouble remember? Mark Cardenas. Mark, I love you. I just couldn't remember. It happens when you reach 58. I hate that one.
Mark in Seattle.
He is in Seattle.
Yeah.
The dynamic of that band changed dramatically. I mean, is that something that you felt? Because I felt quite separated from you guys just simply because we were.
Yeah.
But is that something, what was that to look at? Was that disappointing that whole thing went down?
Yeah, I personally was disappointed. I wasn't disappointed that you had the opportunity, of course, but I thought the decision to let Jimmy and Terry go was not really logical to me at the time. I thought, okay, they were in Atlanta at the time producing the SOS band.
Right.
And then they had to get on a plane to make it to a Time gig that night, I think it was. And there was a snowstorm, which in Atlanta, if you get 2 inches, you're done.
You're done,
You're
exactly.
stupid. It's like they don't know what to do. Help me, guys. So they missed the flight. And I remember that evening, Prince and Lisa filled in on keys for them. And bass. Prince played bass and Lisa did some key stuff. I did a little bit, but I didn't know enough of their material to where I could really nail it, the whole show. And so I thought, what, okay, it was an act of God. They didn't do it on purpose. They were trying to get to. It's not like they left you in a lurch because they didn't want to be there.
Right.
But to fire them, I thought at that point, just for that minor of a thing where they couldn't help it. So I don't know. I never understood the logic of that.
Yeah.
Why Prince fired them at that time.
Yeah, I was always curious about that as well.
It didn't make sense to me, but I didn't say, "Hey, Prince, why'd you do that?"
I suppose it wasn't your place to question his decisions like that.
No.
Okay, so I'm coming into this band. We idolize all you guys, by the way, so it was super fun to watch this. And we get thrown into the making of this little thing called Purple Rain. Did you have any idea that Purple Rain was going to turn into this cult classic favorite rock and roll movie of all time? Did you have a feeling about it, or because he was on such a roll, or like, well, I guess boss just wants to do this, I'll play along, whatever?
It was both.
Okay.
The boss wants to do this, I'll play along.
Yeah, I bet. Cash that check.
Yeah, but also believing in it at the same time. But trepidation was in there as well. I thought, oh boy, could be make or break time for him. So I was concerned about it. And so was, rightly so, the record label, because his management people, Cavallo, Ruffalo, Farnoli, really believed in it and wanted to do it, but they didn't want to necessarily bankroll it.
Right.
They wanted Warner's to bankroll it. Warner said no. And then the proposal was, well, how about if we kick in half and you kick in half, or I don't remember the exact deal how it went down, but they managed to persuade Warner's to take the risk and do it. So, it was about that close to not happening. It was, there were moments when it may have been, put on hold. So they made it happen, and the rest is history, of course. But in hindsight, when I look at the movie, I mean, it's flawed, of course. There's, but for a freshman effort on Prince's part to be doing a rock and roll fantasy film like that, based loosely on his life, was amazing. So they pulled it off.
Favorite moment of the Purple Rain tour for you?
Favorite moment?
Is there one or a couple that you can think of?
I liked when we would be like in LA in particular, doing the shows at the
Forum,
at the Forum, and different people would come up and sit in with us. Like Springsteen and,
I was there
Sting.
For that
Were
one.
you there?
I was there for Springsteen, yeah.
Springsteen, Sting, Madonna, Huey Lewis. I can't remember everybody, but everybody and their mom was coming to the shows or coming backstage. And I'll never forget seeing Elizabeth Taylor in the front row clamoring for Prince.
Really?
Clamoring for him, like she was like, the biggest Prince fan. And we all know she loved Michael Jackson too.
Yeah,
was like best buddies, but for Prince too, she was just like gaga.
Do you know what I remember from the Forum?
So that was fun. Seeing all that.
Along those lines, what I remember about the Forum show being backstage is, gentleman came up to me and shook my hand and said, "Shake my hand." He said, "This, my name is Ringo. This is my wife, Barbara." I just went, "Oh." Do you remember meeting Ringo?
I never got to meet Ringo.
You never got to meet? No. I got to meet Ringo, and you didn't get to meet Ringo.
I never got to meet Ringo.
Oh my gosh.
Unfortunately. But they were there. Like when we played Wembley in London, Ringo and Paul were there. But I didn't meet him. I heard they were sitting there, and Springsteen was there one night too, at Wembley. But I met Springsteen more than once, and actually had sit-down conversations with him, as well as Eddie Murphy. He was a huge fan. He used to come backstage. Yeah. Stevie Wonder would come back and hang a little bit, and Quincy Jones.
That's my dude. Quincy. Oh, cool.
Quincy, yeah. Quincy used to fly to Minneapolis just to get, Rudolph's barbecue and take it back on the plane with him.
Really?
That's what he told me, yeah. When he was here working with Bruce Sweden here at this studio.
This studio where we're at Creation Audio.
Yeah. One of the founders was worked with Michael
Bruce Sweden was Michael Jackson's engineer.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we're fast forwarding now because we're coming up on the 40-minute mark.
Oh, sorry.
No, we should. Okay. No, this is great stuff. Are you kidding? This is two old buddies hanging out. Don't be sorry. This is awesome.
Okay.
When did things start changing with the Revolution? When did you go, uh-oh, our little family here is, I feel a little something going on. And how did that all transpire from the beginning of that feeling until the band was no longer the Revolution?
Well, I wasn't really privy to all the machinations that were going on between Prince and Wendy and Lisa at the time, because they were working heavily on the Parade album. I played a little bit on that record, but I was a newlywed, and Prince knew this. He wasn't really bugging me too much to come in and work in the studio, but he was relying on Wendy and Lisa for a lot of stuff. And then they felt like they were, on call 24/7, and they needed a break.
Yeah.
They'd been working for quite a while, and then he said to them, "No, I don't want you to go home yet," because they wanted to get out of town and go back to LA, and he wouldn't let them go. So they had kind of a row about that, amongst some other things which I can't get into.
No, that's fine.
But that's when it kind of started at that point, yeah. And then they had a falling out about some issues, and they quit. Literally 2 weeks before the European Parade tour that we were supposed to do, Europe and Japan that year, and starting in September of 1986. So they left the group, and the next day Prince had management, persuade them to stay on after they'd had their, issues.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, okay, because it basically was, hey, you got a whole crew of people and other bandmates and other people, if you leave now, that tour is going to get canceled. A lot of people's livelihoods will be upended. So they realized that they couldn't make that rash of a decision like that, and have that happen. So they stayed on.
But that was the crack in the foundation.
Yeah.
So how long before they were gone, Bobby was gone, Mark was gone?
Well,
because you stayed on.
Yeah, so this was September of '86 when that happened, and then by November, Prince decided to let them go, and Bobby all in one foul swoop.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That must have been heavy.
It was heavy for me because, I was very close to them, and I did my best to persuade Prince not to follow through with that idea.
Yeah.
But he'd made up his mind and basically said, I would understand if you left too because of this, but you can stay on if you choose to at this point.
And you did.
Yeah. I stayed on.
Why did you stay?
Well, because I loved my job. I really didn't want to leave. I had no reason to leave. I certainly didn't have any issues with Prince.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, if I quit just because he's firing my bandmates, what am I going to do?
True.
Where do I go from here? It's a little scary too. So I just wanted to stay on, and then I became a part of the new power generation for the first 4 years of that.
You were in the new power generation.
The very first version of it. Yeah.
And Madhouse, I might add.
That's right, and I did the Madhouse tour of '87.
With my dear buddy, Eric Leeds. That was after I had just left.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And he joined the new power generation. No, he joined the Revolution.
He was with the Revolution for a little while.
That's right.
On the Parade tour. And even he was coming up even during the Purple Rain tour to perform at that point. But from there...
how long did you stay on then?
Just 4 more, to the end of 1990.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me what life is like or was like for you after you left the band. What does that look like? 'Cause you're touring for 11 years or 12 years or something like that, and then it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you, obviously from your bio that I read earlier tonight, you found different ways to win, you reinvented yourself, but how was that adjustment period for you?
It was actually pretty good. I liked it. I liked decompressing after all those years of touring and stuff.
What did you do?
I just stayed home.
Okay.
And
Bet
then,
you did.
And then got married and had kids.
Okay.
Which I wanted to do. And I didn't want to be on the road a lot anymore. I wanted to raise the kids and be a real hands-on.
So you transitioned into studio owner, Starview, and was the other name of the studio that you had?
The operating room.
The operating
room. It was
room.
first called the operating room.
Yes.
Then when I moved, we changed it to Starview, and now it's back to the operating room again.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
Then you were an executive for KTEL Records for a while? And
Just
you
a
moved...
staff producer.
So you did more of that kind of thing, and you produced also for some video games, is that right?
Yes. A few video game companies. There was a video game company here called King Show Games. Head Games Publishing, I'm sorry. King Show Games was another company. Head Games was just PC sports games and stuff like that. And we did some haunted house game.
Right.
Something like that. I worked there for a while. Then they got bought out by Activision. Did a little bit of work for them. And then I moved on to doing slot machine video game
music.
Sound effects and music, yeah. But that was much later. That was like in 2008 through 2012, like
right.
that era.
But you've always found
a niche of some kind, yeah.
These little niches.
Yeah.
Your advice, as younger folks might be listening to this, Audie probably wants to hear this stuff. After having such a tremendous high like that, how do you continually navigate this crazy music business and succeed? What do you have to say to yourself every morning you wake up, man? Is it a personality thing? Is it a work ethic thing? What is it that has kept you in this business for this long? How the hell have you done it?
I don't know. That's really, to be honest with you, I don't know, because there have been ups and downs, obviously, during that tenure time, during that time. So it's just you just have to keep plugging away, and find different things.
Yeah.
To do.
What you've done.
You have to network with people. It's very important. A lot of networking.
So you got back into playing with the Purple Experience. This Purple Experience, for those of you who don't know, is actually a tribute band to
Prince tribute act, yeah.
So that's kind of a controversial thing you did there. And this is when Prince was still alive. Why did you do that?
Because someone offered me the job. I had done some special event for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with some other musicians.
Right.
And then they said, hey, we've been bandying about this idea of doing a tribute act, because that's when tribute acts were starting to really take off. There was already one big Prince tribute act called
Vegas.
Purple Rain in Vegas, which had been, they were on frickin' David Letterman
They were
in 07.
great. I remember that.
Yeah, they had tribute band week on David Letterman when they performed. And I got kind of mad, actually, watching that.
Yeah, I bet you did. Yeah.
Their guys are doing our thing.
Right.
So when the idea came up, at first I said no. I didn't think it was a good idea for me, because I knew it would ruffle feathers, that it would my former bandmates probably would look down on it, as Prince would. And I was right. In fact, I really tried to communicate with Prince, because when I made the decision to do it, basically my wife said, you should do it. You should just get out and play again. It'll be fun. Well, so what? You're just going to play your old songs again and make a little extra money. It's a financial thing, too. And I thought, okay.
And you've got a kid, and you have a wife at this point.
2 kids, 2 boys.
Two kids.
I thought,
by that point.
I needed to increase the income at that time.
Sure.
And so I tried to get a hold of Prince, and I couldn't even get through to him at the time, because I wanted to say, hey, there's this idea on the table. I want to make sure you know before I do it. And if you were going to say yay or nay to it, and I fully expected him to say, don't do that.
Right. Right.
But his people were so guarded. I mean, I couldn't even get through to him. This was in 2010, late 2010. I could not get him on the phone. Huh. It was the weirdest thing.
Wow.
They said, you're, we know who you are. Yeah, we know who you are. But unless we know in advance that he's expecting your call. But I need to schedule a call with him. I need you to tell him, I need to speak to him.
Right.
And they dropped the ball.
So he didn't give his blessing or his instruction to stop doing it.
Yeah, but fast forward to 2014, and then he called me in for a meeting to talk about it.
Oh, he did he?
Yeah, he did. And then he didn't want me to do it and wanted me to stop. And I said, but we're helping your brand. It's not any, you know, and
Mm.
we're playing in markets that you never went to. I mean, a lot of people are very happy to have us play because
Right.
they never saw you live, or they couldn't afford to see you live,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they always were very grateful that we were there playing
Right.
in some of these cities, you know, smaller towns, smaller, 100,000 people, maybe 80,
Mhm.
60, you know, all these smaller.
Right.
And so then he said, well, I suppose you can do it as long as you tell your guy not to dress like me, your front man.
Right.
Because he was doing the costuming
Mm-hmm.
first.
Right.
You know, Prince. And I said, well, can't guarantee that. I mean, it's,
Right.
you know, I can certainly ask him. So that was where it ended. And he didn't give me a yay or nay. He didn't say, you got to stop. He wanted me to stop, but I just kept going because I said, it's only helping you.
Yeah.
It's only helping you.
And you did that for a period of time, but you stopped doing that for a while, and
Yeah.
they continued on, and they're doing very well. And
Yeah. And well, when the revolution reunited after he passed away, it was too difficult to do both anyway.
Of course.
So you know,
Yeah.
do the revolution, and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talked about Prince passing, and we have to get to this.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you? How did you find out?
Well, I was at my office downtown that day. I was working for a company that I still work for part time, called ADX Labs, and we were in the music side of things for that company. And so I had a friend of mine who lived in Chanhassen called me up and told me there was a news report that somebody had passed at Paisley Park. And I went, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Do we have any confirmation who it is? He goes, no. I go, great. And so I was really worried. And then about a half hour later, he called me back and said, it's official.
Oh.
I go, so it's Prince. He goes, yeah. I go, how'd you find out? He goes, I know the sheriff.
Oh.
It's not even in the media yet. You're the first person I called to tell.
Oh, my.
So I knew before it was even announced anywhere. So that was that weird moment you have when a family member passes away and you're in shock. And you just, everything stands still and you can't think straight. The rest of the day was shot.
Oh, of course.
I was done. And then the worst part of it all is I had to play the next evening with the Purple Experience outside of Chicago at a theater.
No.
We had a gig. And the band is calling me up going, what do you want to do? I mean, this isn't good. We should cancel. I go, we got to cancel.
Yeah.
And then I called our booking agent and the theater guy, the head of the theater. They said, no, you can't. I mean, you're under contract and we can't do it, and it's almost sold out, blah, 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 blah. So I went back to the band. I go, I know this, you're not going to like this decision, but we got to do the show. So we did.
How was that?
It was really weird.
Yeah.
It was weird, but the audience wanted it. They knew he had passed, and they were definitely wanting to hear the music at that point.
Was that do you think that was healing not only for you, but for that audience?
Yeah, I think so.
Tell me a little bit about the conversation about getting the revolution back together after Prince's passing. How did that come about?
Well, initially, we just wanted to do a few shows in September at First Avenue here in town and, do a tribute to him and all that. And then once we saw how well that went, then everybody was like, yeah, maybe we should do more.
Yeah.
To bring that to the fans and help the healing of the fans. And that's where it just went from there.
It's hard to do the revolution without your lead singer, though.
Yeah, but it's hard to do Queen without their lead singer, too.
Oh, no question.
Any band, anybody that's
Of
out
course.
there doing that stuff. But we managed to do it. And
I mean, between Mark, Wendy, Stokely, did you have any others?
No.
Singers other than that?
Never.
Yeah. I mean, I think at that point, you were doing that as much for each other as you were for the fans. Would you
Right.
agree with that?
Yeah.
What was it like getting back together with everybody?
It was great. I mean,
bet.
we did it one other time at the end of 2003, was it? We did
The Forum in L.A.
Yeah, you were there.
I was on that.
You were there.
Yeah, with a little Angel Buddy Foundation for Sheila E.
Sheila E's thing. So that was the other time we had reunited since the breakup of the band. And after that one, everybody was excited. Oh, we got to do more. We got to do more of these, But it just was too difficult for everybody.
Yeah. So what? The Revolution is on a little bit of a hiatus right now. Is that right?
Yeah.
The girls are working. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing right now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Good, because I can steal you for a little bit.
Yeah.
We've been having a lot of fun playing together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great. Tell me what else is on the horizon for you, Matt. What do you got in the works?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I was working for a music-oriented company, although they're a tech company. They have other technical and software-based products they do, but there was a wing to the company that was doing a streaming service and a small record label. So that's going to start ramping up again soon. Mm-hmm. But we had to temporarily shut things down due to the COVID pandemic.
Wasn't COVID fun?
Yeah, a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
The first out of the out of work and the last to be back.
Yeah, and then I just want to mention my son Max.
Oh yeah,
my
tell me about
son,
what your kids are doing.
My oldest son is in LA, and he's an aspiring producer, songwriter as well.
Really good too.
Yeah, and he's doing some.
What does he go by?
He goes by the stage name of Max Milli.
Okay,
and that's
spelled, check it out.
And it's spelled MVXMILLI.
Okay,
and so he's been working with quite a number of different people out there. I can't keep track of it all.
Oh, I bet.
So he's he's working on different projects, and so we'll see how that transpires.
And you've been married to Andra for how long?
28 years.
Is it 28?
Yeah.
I thought it was 30.
Not quite. 29?
You better get this right now.
wait. We just had our 29th anniversary.
For you. Congratulations. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, you better get that one right.
Yeah, but we've been together for 32 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go that way.
Well, I got to tell you, man, this has been long overdue for our chat for this, especially on Music on the Run. I know the fans have been writing and going, when are you going to get Fink on there?
Really?
I finally got you on here.
That's nice.
I have to say that from me, like being a little brother, you're my big brother's age, watching the trajectory of your career in that influential age that I was when you and Prince were taking off and doing these things, we just thought you guys were gods. We were like, wow, we can't believe this is happening in our own town. And all of you paved the way for the rest of us and everybody who came through here. And to see you still at it with humor. I know everyone loves you because you are funny. You don't take yourself too seriously. You play your ass off. You take work seriously. You're a good guy to be around. And it's just so fun to finally, after however many years I've known you, be able to sit down in the same room and get this documented and just tell you what you've meant to this Minneapolis community, man. You are a legend here. You really are.
Well, thanks. I forget that a lot of times, too.
Well, cut it out.
I know.
I think other people may not give you the credit you deserve. So here I am, and not only between my band members, with Minneapolis Funk All-Stars, people need to give it up to you because you are one of the pioneers of the Minneapolis sound, no matter how you slice it. Matt Fink, Dr. Fink, right here on Music on the Run. Thank you so much for doing this, man.
You're welcome,
yeah,
Paz.
unbelievable.
My pleasure.
We will see you in a month, and it's going to be our 3-year anniversary of Music on the Run. Have a great month. We will see you then. Ow! We out.
Music on the Run was hosted by yours truly, St. Paul Peterson. Edited and produced by my buddy Davide Raso. Video editing by Wudali. And a very special thanks to the people who financially support this podcast. And remember to visit the Funky Doctor at least once a year.